All right, well, welcome back to Youth Bombs. I'm Tim Martin, I'm the producer of Youth Bombs, and I've taken over the show today to check back in with a friend of mine, Alex Schwartz. Alex, I appreciate you taking time to join the show here today. You and I had met, I guess it was over a year ago now, in the wake of the October 7th attack from Hamas on Israel. And, a lot's happened over the last year, almost 14 months now at this point. So I wanted to get back in with you. We have a different audience here on this show than when we talked a year ago. So can you first just kind of reset for the audience and kind of give us your first reaction when you heard about the attacks on October 7th?
Sure. So listen, we met each other almost a year ago. I think it's been about exactly a year now when I launched the campaign and we met together at one of the conferences, ended up really working, I think, beautifully, getting a chance to speak on radio in South Florida and Central Florida,
Yeah.
and making a bigger impact than I think we could have if I had done this just on my own. So it was a great sort of intro to the relationship that we have today. Of course, it started in an unfortunate way, October 7th, 2023. I was in services. This is a joyous day in the Jewish religion. It's called Simchat Torah. It's a day where we basically rejoice on the receiving of the Torah from Mount Sinai. We finish the Torah, and it's just a great big party. Everyone has a lot of fun, and community comes together. You dance, you sing, you drink a lot, and it's basically a big party. And it was unfortunate that that morning when we came to services, we walk into temple, and we're greeted by basically the worst news you could possibly imagine. And if we can think back to the day of October 7th, 2023, that Saturday morning here on the East Coast, I'm currently speaking to you from Israel, but back then when I was on the East Coast, the news wasn't even actually what we anticipated it could have been. It was still in the beginnings of the report, which was, a couple hundred people injured, some
Right.
hostages possibly are involved, and
Right.
spiraled
Right.
out from there. So it was horrific. What can I say? It was as you experienced it, as the viewers experienced it, as the world experienced it. It was an awful experience.
Right. And tell us, we didn't really do much of an intro here at the beginning, but can you just actually tell us a little bit about your background too before we move forward on the interview any further?
Sure. So in 2017, I drafted into the IDF. I spent some time in Israel, connecting to my heritage. This is the homeland of the Jewish people. It's been our homeland for 4,000 years. And it all goes back to the Bible when Moses led the Jewish people over the Sinai, through the Red Sea and into the Promised Land. And it's been that way for, time untested. And I really came as a kid, sort of reconnecting to my roots,
Right.
and fell in love with this country, drafted to the army, served for 2 years in the Armored Corps in the 7th Brigade, a very historic unit. It participated in all of Israel's battles, going back to the foundation of the state in 1948, and made a lot of great friends, great memories. Fast forwarding to October 27th, having finished school, I studied at the University of Florida, got my MBA. I was a
Right.
Gator for 2 awesome years. I still am a Gator,
Great.
and when October 7th happened, being in Florida, studying at Gainesville, I decided, hey, I need to get involved. I need to do something to help what's going on. I have a lot of friends that are still serving in the army. We launched a campaign, Iron Support, 48 hours after October 7th, with the goal of raising $100,000 for my friends overseas.
Right.
And that's really what happened, and that's how we got in touch. We ended up
Right.
speaking to every county in the state of Florida, speaking at the Florida Freedom Summit in November of 2023.
Right.
And fast forwarding till today, Tim, you'd be pleased to know that we successfully reached our campaign goal of 100,000 plus. We ended up
Fantastic.
delivering many more supplies than I could have imagined, and really got to understand the needs of this army. Today, it's almost a radically different army than it was almost a year ago. Everything from
Right.
tactics and strategy to just
Mhm.
the amount of equipment that they have now, and the quality of the soldier that has come out of the Gaza war headed into the Lebanon war is a different soldier. So it's
Gotcha.
really interesting to see it from when we did it together at campaign last year to being here on the ground now, seeing how things have changed.
Yeah.
Interesting transition.
Alex, when did you actually go back to Israel?
So when I finished my MBA in
Okay.
March of 2024, just a couple
Okay.
months ago,
Okay.
I flew back here and I immediately drafted back into the IDF in a reserve capacity. But it's become a full time role for me. I'm now full time back in the IDF,
Yeah.
working in field intelligence.
Are you
Which,
okay?
yeah,
So
go
this
ahead.
is, I'm sorry, this is not the same role that you were in before, correct?
Right, right. So not the same role, radically different, you could say.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of principles and practices that a tanker in the IDF learns, right? So things like navigation, things like communication, strategy.
Right.
These are things that I've taken to the role that I have now, but fundamentally it's a different role. And I think you could say that the IDF sort of expanded its needs and
Okay.
what they're asking for, and because of this war, there's a lot of roles and opportunities that have opened up that I don't think traditionally would have been open to someone in my path that I had taken.
Right.
But I seized on the moment. I applied to a certain unit in the intelligence community, passed a series of tests, passed a series of interviews, was accepted, and
Okay.
fast forward till today, I'm on the ground serving in the IDS Field Intelligence Unit.
I see. I see. Okay. Well, I'm kind of thinking of a couple of the things here as we're going along. Is Iron Support still active? Are there ways that people in the audience here could potentially still support the work that you're doing?
So absolutely, absolutely. And there's a multitude of ways to get involved. If someone wants to get involved here in the Middle East, I would say that right now we're what are we, Tim? 10 days from the election.
Yes.
So we're 10 days from the most important election in my life. I think in on all of our lives. It's a the pivotal moment really for the West world and the entire world. And I think that here in the Middle East, seeing things on the ground as they are, I spent a period of time just now in Lebanon,
Right.
um, seeing what's happening up close, seeing the enemy that we're facing. And this is an enemy that isn't just an existential enemy to Israel or to the
Mhm.
Jewish people. This is an enemy to everybody, to the West, to our value system. They think differently from us. They value different things. They have different ends in mind, and they're very hungry, very focused, very organized to reach those ends. And I'd say it's a very dangerous enemy. There's something you learn in the army, which is never to dismiss your enemy, always to treat him with respect, because when you start to dismiss them, things like October 7th happen, and we kind of forget who we're dealing with. So being as it is, which is a very serious time, I would say someone wants to donate to the campaign that I had started.
Yeah.
Of course, I welcome it. There's many activities that we're donating to. I would say today some of the campaign focuses have shifted because we've been able to supply all of the equipment that we need for the IDF. Really, I'm focused more now on helping families
Okay.
of soldiers who've passed away.
Okay.
Um, you know, PTSD counseling for soldiers who are coming back from combat.
Hmm.
These are sort of the initiatives I'm taking. But I would say also equally so, if someone wants to connect with me through the email
Yeah.
that I launched at the campaign, and they have an idea for how else they'd like to continue, to contribute, or they want to visit, or whatever it might be. Listen, at the end of the day, this is all about unity and connection,
Right.
and and um, and I think that there's other ways to contribute as well. So there's concrete way, of course, to donate the campaign, which I really welcome. It's tax deductible, but there's other ways that we can connect as well.
Gotcha. Well, you certainly sound like you're really doing some pretty noble work, and it's great to be able to spend a few minutes with you. I know it's your time is valuable. Obviously, you're right there on the front lines on the ground. Just kind of in closing, Alex, is there something
Sure.
that you uh, kind of want to correct? Maybe something that's out there in the public, sort of the rhetoric versus the reality, or something like that. Before we got to let you go. Anything kind of on that wavelength?
It's a great question. I think that warrants a longer conversation, which I'd love to have with you.
Okay, well, maybe
Thinking
we need
about
to
it
do
now, yeah, of course. Hey, I missed you, Tim. We
that.
haven't spoken in a year.
Yeah,
I enjoyed the time that we had together in October and November and December, seeing you at the conferences, speaking on the radio.
yeah,
Listen, I'll tell you this. I think that there's a bigger issue at heart here. I don't think it's only this conflict. I think that there's a deep, sinister evolution happening in the United States with the educational system and sort of how our kids are coming out of university.
Okay.
And it's much larger. The problem is much broader than just sort of the Israel-Palestine conflict, right? If I want to pinpoint this conflict,
yeah,
I would say that people really don't understand how the Middle East works, and we tend to apply Western thinking and morality structures to a part of the world that does not think the same way, does not look at the world the same way, and feels different about you and I. And it's hard for us, humans are egocentric, right? We tend to see the world as we see the world. So that means everyone sees the world the way we see the world. But fundamentally, the enemy that is our neighbor here in the Middle East is a very serious enemy who brings with him a very dark energy that is corrosive, and it needs to be squashed out, and it needs to be stomped out. And it really is light versus darkness. So there's unfortunately a lot of innocent people mixed up in this matter that really have no part in this and are suffering greatly from the hands of Hezbollah and Hammas and Ansar Allah, which is the Houthi organization in Yemen. And of course, they're all tentacles of the Iranian regime.
Gotcha.
But those are the real enemies. And I would say those are the real enemies right now of the free and loving West, which I think we're all a part of. So stomping out those enemies and recognizing where the source comes from, I think is the biggest thing to think about here.
Yeah.
And understanding that the enemy here is he's not what you think he is. You can't apply Western thinking to the part of the world that I live in, because this is a dog-eat-dog world that I think us in the West have been sort of, we've enjoyed a lot of comfort and stability and peace for, 80 years since World War II?
Yeah.
The last major conflict that, how many veterans, how many people remember World War II? So
Sure.
we're a victim of success.
Yeah. Well, message received, and listen, we will continue the conversation. I'm really happy to have been able to reconnect with you and catch up with what you've been going, what's been happening with Iron Support and, kind of this new direction. We'll be praying for you, Alex. I'm proud of you for what you're doing, and we'll catch up next time here, maybe on the show or offline or something like that. But thanks for taking the time.
Sounds like a plan.
And
absolutely, Tim.
Real quick,
always a pleasure.
Yeah, real quick, in the website too.
The website is iron.support. So it's https://iron.support. It'll take you to our campaign page where you can make a tax-deductible donation.
Okay.
Donations right now are really focused on, like I said, helping kids who are coming out of this war with severe PTSD, helping families who have lost loved ones, and of course, always supplying our soldiers with the equipment that they need. A comfortable soldier in combat feels better, feels more dangerous, feels more lethal, and that means that the country is safer and the soldiers come back safe. So that's really what it's about. And all donations are really, really appreciated. I look at everyone who donates very closely. Doesn't get lost on me. Every single person that I see, I send them a thank you and really, really appreciate it.
Very good. Well, we'll take care, and we will see you next time, Alex. Thank you so much again. We really appreciate it.
Peace from the Middle East, Tim.
All right. Bye-bye.
Take care.